But yeah, we were obviously on TV, and I played this shot because the ball has got to be in a really specific place. Like, I've got out doing this as well, so...
Okay. So it's quite risky.
Embarrassing. Well, I suppose all cricket shots you can get out to as well. So, yeah, I think the commentators at the time must have, you know, gone to town on the shot and asked people to name it, and so, yeah, the nutmeg stuck. And yeah, since then I've done quite a lot of videos about it, and which I get increasingly embarrassed about because it was sort of an accident, and then, yeah, I'm just doing what I can not to get out as a batter.
That was England cricketer Nat Sciver-Brunt talking to me a little bit earlier. She's recently became the leading cricketer in the world as awarded by Wisden. Now, last year it drew more than 6 million viewers to BBC One. Now, police drama Blue Lights is back, and the first reviews have been very complimentary indeed. The series, of course, centres on a group of rookie police officers in Northern Ireland. One of those is Grace Ellis, a woman in her 40s who was previously a social worker. Grace is played by the brilliant Sian Brooke, who is sitting across from me in the Woman's Hour studio. Good morning.
Good morning.
Great to see you. So for anyone who hasn't seen Blue Lights, firstly, I don't know where they've been, but how would you summarise it to people?
I would say it's a police drama set in modern day Belfast, and it sort of shows how these 3 rookies navigate this new world against the backdrop of Belfast itself. And we meet them at the beginning when they just start out after police training, and then we follow them and how they sort of relationships are formed, friendships within the force, and also the people that they meet within this incredible city.
And how would you describe your character, Grace? She seems like someone who just really wants to make the world a better place. How would you sum her up?
I would say exactly that. I would say she's quite a selfless character. She is determined in her own way to make the place or the small part that she lives in that little bit better. I mean, we started shooting and we sort of embarked upon the journey of Blue Lights at the tail end of COVID, when the world was a little bit topsy-turvy and a little bit crazy. And for me, I found that I was quite baffled by public figures that I might see and the choices that they made in terms of the sense of morality and social conscience. And so with Grace, I feel so blessed to play somebody that makes choices for the right reasons. She isn't in the public domain, so she's just doing it because she believes in a sense of community, and that essentially at the end of the day people are good, and she might make mistakes and she might mess up, but she tries.
In a world that can often feel quite cynical, that's quite a rare quality, isn't it?
It is, and I think she's described, and I think myself, I've probably described her as naively optimistic at times, which I think does her an injustice. I suppose recently I thought, well, what's the opposite of that? What's the opposite of that? And I would say it's apathy. And isn't it better to be optimistic, that, you know, maybe blindly optimistic, but that might bring about change rather than just sitting back and not doing anything.
Yeah. Now, you've had, I suppose, a little bit of experience playing police officers in previous dramas, haven't you? Where you played Cressida Dick in a Stephen Lawrence documentary, but also, did it help that the fact that your dad was a police officer? Did that give you an upper hand in knowing more about how to portray a police officer?
Yeah, I would definitely say. I mean, you know, the thing is, that's my job. My job is to put myself in the shoes of whichever character I'm playing and to make sense of the choices that they make. And the same with Cressida Dick in that drama, which was highlighting failures within the police at that, you know, in that investigation. I had to sort of understand why she made those choices, be it right or wrong. And then the same with Grace. And the thing is, with my dad and sort of growing up in a household where he was, you know, he was a police officer, I could see the person behind the uniform, that, you know, it was a real human being. It was a dad, you know, and so that gave me an insight, I suppose, into the world of policing, and that also there wasn't a sort of barrier between myself and the uniform. I think so often when we see people, you know, in whatever service it might be, paramedics, you know, fire service, you see the uniform first. So I definitely think that gave me a different angle, I suppose.
And you tried to bring that out in Blue Lights in Grace, I suppose a more humanised version of a police officer almost, or at least you wanted to highlight the human version of a police officer.
Yeah, definitely. And that's the beauty of the writing, I think, with her, well, with all of them, I suppose, is that I suppose I was thinking about it, and she, you know, I don't look upon it as I am playing a police officer. I look upon it as I am playing a character that happens to be a police officer. So I'm trying to play all of the facets of this woman and what she is. But she is a police, you know, at the end of the day, that's what she does.
I think we do see that because there are quite some hard-hitting themes in the series, Blue Lights. We see people struggling with drug addiction, we see gang violence, we see shooting, but then we also see these moments of interaction between the characters. There's a part where you bring out a container full of baked goods, and for one of your love interests in the show, and it's just a nice human moment, a humorous moment that shows, I suppose, a 360-degree character, not just I'm a police officer and that is all I'm about.
Totally. And I think that is part of the genius of the writing and Blue Lights, in that, you know, it's telling a story of what modern day Belfast is and societal issues that, you know, are happening there, if not all over the place. So it's brave storytelling, and it's not going to shy away from that. So it works on that level in terms of a police procedural drama. But yet it works on the level of just being humans and relationships and dynamics, and I think that's maybe why it's slightly different, and maybe that is why it's sort of been so popular in terms of the response that we've had. It's been incredible because it does, I think, work on those so many levels, and it sort of flits from one to the other so quickly. But that's the genius of the writing, and that's also real life, isn't it? That's what happens. You can't dictate, I am going to just be happy all day. You can't. So
tell me about the writing, because you mentioned it there. How aware were you that the need to get that particular region of the world, Northern Ireland, accurate and authentic?
Oh gosh, I think this, from the moment I read these scripts, it was immediate that I could see how much care and consideration had gone into telling this story. And that comes from the top down. It comes from amazing executive producers, Stephen Wright and Louise Gallagher, to our brilliant writers, Adam Patterson and Declan Lawn. And they are from Northern Ireland. They grew up there. They grew up through the Troubles. They understand the dynamics of what it is now. And I think they have an immense appreciation for the responsibility to tell this story accurately, and I know, and I think also the writers themselves come from a journalistic background, and I think you can see that in the writing, or I could, in that they've seen life exposed, you know, in human behaviour, and the best of life and the worst of life, and I think they have somehow been able to distill that into this show.
And the reviews have been very good, the early reviews. Telegraph saying that it's much must-watch TV. The Irish Times saying simply, just really good telly. And it has been recommissioned for series 3 and 4. So what would it be like for you to be in, assuming that you continue into series 3 and 4, in a long-running role like that? be the longest running role you've had in TV, I believe.
I have done the show, but yes, it's quite a treat to come and do that as an actor. But you know, it's Blue Lights, and I can't say that I would definitely do it. Who knows? Who knows?
Unpredictable.
Do you know what I mean? It's unpredictable, knowing what happened in series 1. But yes, the prospect of doing a show and staying with a character for that length of time is such a treat as an actor, because you get to revisit. You know, the first time around, you're putting the paint on the canvas, and you're desperately wanting that it's the right colour and the right picture and the right this, so that you can show this world in all its glory. And then when you revisit it, you are able to put a little bit more detail onto that picture and breathe a little bit in that character, and maybe let go a little bit more. So yeah, the prospect to be able to do that for 2 more seasons is really a delicious thought.
Delicious thought. And I bet you the people listening who watch the show will be so glad to hear you say that, because it's been so popular. Might there be anything else that we see you in? Have you got any future projects in the works that you can tell us about?
Yes, another series which we're bringing out, series 4, which is called Trying, which is on Apple, where I play a highly opinionated and somewhat unlikable person at times called Karen, and I absolutely love playing her. It's about a couple that try to adopt, and the process, and it's, believe it or not, it's a comedy. It's very funny and very warm, and so that's coming out on Apple TV. And then I've got something called Supercell, which is on Netflix, which is a superhero story set in Southwest London, all filmed in Southwest London. It's a wonderful, I'm really excited. It's going to be out soon.
Okay, so that's quite a vast array of different roles that you'll be playing. Very much looking forward to that. Thank you, Sian. It's been a pleasure to talk to you. Sian Brooke, who stars in the latest series of Blue Lights, which is the BBC drama. You can watch all the episodes on BBC iPlayer right now, or you could even do it the old-fashioned way and wait until Monday next week, where episode 2 is on BBC One at 9 o'clock. Sian, thank you.
Thank you.
I just want to come to a few more of the messages that we've been getting in. Lots of you getting in touch about smacking, and the new report saying that it should be made illegal to smack children in England and Northern Ireland, as it already is in Scotland and Wales. This message comes in from Christina in Birmingham. Smacking children is at very best the most blatant form. A children's social worker for many years, where I learned to understand smacking is simply to ask, would you smack an adult for not doing what you wanted? The only reason we smack children is because we can. There are other ways of teaching boundaries. Smacking is about adult frustration. It's not easy, but it doesn't help either side. That one, anonymous. Andrew says, I once smacked my son when he was about 10. He swore at my wife. I do not think he ever swore in our presence in the more than 30 years since. So a range of messages coming in. Please do continue to get in touch. Text, WhatsApp, and also social media at BBC Women's Hour. Now joining me now is entrepreneur and activist Kaval Ahmed, founder of Soul Sisters Pakistan, a community support group on Facebook. It was created 11 years ago for women to discuss topics that were often considered taboo in Pakistan society, such as sex and divorce. Well, earlier this month, Facebook disabled the group for 43 hours due to an intellectual property violation. It gave Kaval's work global attention. In the past, the group has been accused by some of promoting divorce and wild behaviour. Since the group's reinstatement, Kaval has announced that she's starting a new platform, which she can tell us about now. Good morning, Kaval.
Hi, good morning. How are you?
I'm very well. Welcome to Women's Hour. So let's hear more about Soul Sisters Pakistan, because you've built this incredible network of women, over 300,000 members now.
Absolutely. Soul Sisters Pakistan started off really small. It was just 5,000 women. I got inspired because before that, in 2011, I was a makeup artist. I used to hear stories all the time of women telling me of the kind of issues they were facing, particularly around their marriages or around the kind of oppression they had to face, be it something as small as not being able to choose her own wedding dress to larger things like forced marriages or not knowing enough about her body rights. And it occurred to me that why don't these women have a place to go? Why aren't their parents listening? Why don't they have someone to talk to at home? Why are they telling me their stories? And so I was inspired to start Soul Sisters Pakistan. It started off as a very tight-knit small group, but even though we were just 5,000 women, everybody outside of the group was talking about it. Be it at weddings, be it on dinner tables, everybody was like, there is this secret network of women and they seem to be talking about things that we shouldn't talk about. They're airing their dirty laundry. They're talking about things women should never discuss. How can these women have the audacity to talk about divorce or leaving their husbands or getting married again or, anything or everything that is, looked down upon in certain parts of our society. So it had a very bold start, and over the last 10 years, we've just grown. We've been threatened, we've been defamed, we are regularly trolled, and the most amazing thing is that even if outside the group, we are being talked about in a negative manner, when you're inside the group, you will only feel empowered because every woman is another woman's friend. And this is quite ironic given that in South Asian culture, you grow up hearing that women are each other's enemies. So we've literally changed that around and shown that no, actually, we're all each other's friends.
So changing the narrative there, you've mentioned some of the issues that the women are coming to you with, body rights, choosing a wedding dress even. What else are they telling you over the last 11 years?
So we've literally heard it all, be it sexual harassment at work, be it financial rights, be it inheritance rights. In Pakistan, there is a lot of issues surrounding inheritance rights of women. So a lot of women get deprived of their fair share of inheritance because it's taken away from them. And again, this is something that's shoved under the rug because the patriarchy obviously doesn't want women to ever know that they have the right to inheritance as well. So brothers or uncles often take it away and they leave the woman with nothing. Similarly, if a woman is undergoing emotional or physical abuse, she's told by her elders to stay quiet, be patient, things will get better, heal, calm down as you grow older, or go pop, a couple of kids out and he's going to get busy, he's going to start loving you again. If a woman complains of infidelity, she's told, oh, you must not be trying hard enough. It must be the fact that you've gained weight or that you don't look pretty when he comes home or the fact that you have children now, so you're not dressing up enough for him. So it's always the woman who's blamed in several situations, and because this platform gave women the validation that no, it's not you who's the problem. You are somebody who's living under subjugation or oppression, or the fact that you do have equal rights is what really angers a lot of people.
So this safe space is providing, I suppose, a valuable resource in terms of support, and it's great that women are able to vent in your group. Does it lead to changed behaviour? Does it lead to the different outcomes for this women that they wouldn't have had previously?
110%. And I would say that even my own behavior's changed over the last 10 years. There are so many things that I have unlearned over time. And I'll give you a really brief example. About 4 years ago, when I launched my show Conversations with Kaval, there was a woman who came up to me at one of our networking events and she said, I just want to have a word with you. And I said, sure. And she told me that she posted on Soul Sisters Pakistan that she was about to leave a marriage where she had borne emotional abuse. She was pregnant. So she was very scared of being a single mother, particularly from a conservative family. And she said that when I went on the group, I literally had no idea whether I should keep the baby, whether I should leave the marriage, and whether or not I would be able to provide for myself and my child in this world. And when she posted on the group, hundreds of women reached out to her. Someone gave her a job. Someone, multiple single mothers said that, if we did it, you can too. We're here to listen to you, to be there for you every single day. Anyway, fast forward 2 months later, she got a divorce. She moved out. She took that job. And now 4 years later, she's doing 2 jobs. She's extremely happy. She drives a scooter around Karachi, which is not a very women driving a scooter friendly place. And her daughter sits in the back seat of that scooter, and she tells her mother that I'm so proud of the fact that people smile at us when we're out on the roads. Her name is Zainab. We've even covered her story on the show, and she's just one of the many women who literally seen their lives change simply through the access of a good female network.
Wow, so it's actually leading to tangible change. So how do women sign up for this? You mentioned earlier that it's like a secret group, a secret network. How do you find women, or do they find you?
So the group on Facebook is very much searchable, although there's like tons of fake ones now too. So
it's like copycat groups.
Yes, copycat groups, and then some are led by men because they want to use them to, trap women, lure them in, etc. But ours pretty much will stand out because you'll be able to see who the admin is, which is going to be me. You'll be able to distinguish it from the cover photo. And then, as you also mentioned in your introduction, we are shifting out to our own platform called Hey Soli. Although Hey Soli is still being built, I think the best asset I would say I have right now is that everyone or anybody who's starting a product looks for the people who use it. I have the community already, and these people are my advisors. They're my sounding boards, they're my cheerleaders and my supporters. So we're kind of going to build this together. And I don't know whether this is going to fail or if it's going to succeed, but I do know that this is worth everyone trying and, putting their best foot forward and kind of, working together to make some magic happen.
And what do you hope it becomes? How do you hope to help even further?
I want it to be a hybrid of content and community, as well as digital upskilling. So I do always want it to be a place where women find other women, but also be a place of learning and sharing skills. So that is something of a hybrid that we're looking to create right now.
You've done some incredible work, and it's clearly making a difference to many women's lives. Kabil Ahmed, thank you so much. Founder of Soul Sisters Pakistan. I do here have a statement from the parent company of Facebook, Meta, about taking down the group, which was down for 43 hours. A Meta company spokesperson said, "We notified the group admins of the status of the page, which related to repeated violations of our IP policies. The enforcement was not related to other posts made by the group." Now, your messages still coming in about what's been a very big talking point this morning, and it regards whether smacking should be made illegal in England and Northern Ireland. A report that's come out this morning by Child Doctors says it should be and should fall in line with Scotland and Wales. You have many opinions on this as our listeners. Let me get to a few of the messages. One here saying, "I'm 84 and realise I was more emotionally crippled by never being hugged by my mother than by the smacks from her." That's from Maureen. Another message here: "We want to raise children to be kind, helpful and have good relationships when grown up. How can we possibly teach them this by modelling aggression and power misuse by hitting them? It teaches them that they can solve their problems with their fists. To raise children, we need to model the qualities we wish to see in them. I was hit a small amount as a child, and I do not hit my 3 children aged 9, 6 and 1. I solve our problems with firm, loving boundaries and logical consequence. There is support out there for people who wish to parent differently to how they were raised. I'm so glad my generation are parenting differently." That's from Rose. Thank you for all your messages. Some people have left their names, but if you want to remain anonymous, you can. We're on text, we're on WhatsApp, and we're also on social media. Now, my next guest is a writer and podcaster. Her name is Caroline Crampton. She describes herself as a hypochondriac and has explored the very condition in her new book. A Body Made of Glass, A History of Hypochondria. Hypochondria is an outdated term, but is often described as the unwarranted and pervasive fear that one has a serious illness, often accompanied by a lack of diagnosable symptoms. Well, today, medical experts use the term health anxiety. Caroline was diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma when she was 17. And 5 years later, she was given the all clear, but her fear of the disease coming back left her with almost constant health anxiety. Caroline joins me now. Welcome to the program, Caroline.
Thank you very much for having me.
Right, so firstly, should we get into the term hypochondria and how it's actually defined? You've done a lot of research on this.
Yeah, well, that definition that you gave in your introduction there, I think, is very good. This idea that you don't have an illness that can be externally perceived, that isn't being picked up on tests, that isn't being diagnosed formally, and yet you are experiencing the symptoms of that illness, and along with that, and with that difference between what's being told, you're being told that is real and what's not real, that's where the anxiety really, really amplifies. At least that's been my personal experience and those of all the hypochondriacs that I've spoken to while I've been working on this.
I see. So tell us about your personal experience then, because you go into quite some detail in the book, but what was your own experience of this?
Well, for me, it started with that cancer diagnosis when I was 17. And then when I, very lucky to get the all clear 5 years later, I still had that, I think, quite understandable for a lot of people who've been in that situation, that anxiety that it would return. So constant awareness of how your body feels at all times. You know, is this a lump? Is that a lump? Should I go to the doctor? Should I not? That's just a constant presence in your mind is all you're thinking about. That behaviour for me then transformed into something else. It ceased to be just about the cancer, and it could be about any kind of illness, really, all kinds of symptoms. I had a long period where I was really worried that my hair was falling out too much, and that could be evidence of hormonal imbalances and tumours elsewhere or some other condition. It ceased to be about the cancer at all, but that is where it started for me.
There is, I suppose, a counter-argument that we are often encouraged to check our bodies quite regularly. And if there is any slight indication that something is wrong, go to a doctor, get it checked out, right?
Absolutely, and this is where I have enormous empathy for all of the medical professionals who tried to deal with this, because I think it's an impossible situation. Because on the one hand, yes, we are encouraged to be hyper-vigilant. I absolutely had that as a former cancer patient myself. You know, checkups, doctors telling me, if you feel anything that's wrong, definitely come in. We always want to check it out. We always want to know that you're concerned. Great care, wonderful. But that also then facilitated this constant anxiety and the fact that I was always thinking about it and always so aware of what was going on in my body, which then became destructive patterns. So I'm not sure that I know what the perfect balance is there. I don't know that anyone is. I think we're all just trying to navigate our individual anxiety as best we can.
There's definitely a hard balance to try and strike there. It can be difficult to know which side of the line you actually fall on. But from your research and from your writing the book, how do you understand how the difference between when men are called hypochondriacs, if at all, and when women are called hypochondriacs?
There is a huge difference. Studies show that hypochondria, health anxiety, is way more common in women than in men. There's no settled understanding as to why that is, but there are a few different theories, ranging from the idea that women's brains don't process serotonin as quickly as men's do, or that women have evolved to be more sensitive to the hormones that govern stress responses because of evolutionary reasons. We don't absolutely know. But it is definitely the case that it occurs more in women than in men. It's also the case that women are treated differently by healthcare providers, and this is where I think it gets very difficult to determine what is hypochondria and what is women's justified anxiety and frustration that they're not being taken seriously about their health. I think the two are inextricably linked and overlap. There is so much data about how, for instance, one study I found that women who went to A&E with severe stomach pain had to wait almost a third longer than men who presented with exactly the same symptoms.
Really?
Women have to make
twice as many visits to the doctor as men, to be referred to a specialist for some types of cancer. Another study showed that female patients are diagnosed with cancer far later than male counterparts going through the same process. So I think all of that, and many more examples besides, all feed into this anxiety and this process and this difficulty around health for women. And then I think we also have this long history of women being belittled for their emotions and their fears, and you get into things like hysteria, women's feelings being dismissed as just being hysterical. It feeds into how women with health anxiety get treated.
So why is it, do you feel, that healthcare professionals treat male and female patients differently when it comes to pain? I think you've had personal experience of this, how when you went for an operation, your pain management was treated very differently to a man's.
Yeah, so the example that I wrote about in the book for myself was when I had to have an egg extraction before I had chemotherapy, which is a bizarre thing to have when you're 17 and you're very far away from considering whether you want to have a family, but it was considered necessary because of what the chemotherapy was going to do to my fertility. And in the moment, I didn't really question this, but there was no pain management discussed for this process, very little anesthesia, and then I remember them saying to me afterwards, if you feel any discomfort, just take paracetamol, which, looking back on it now, feels absolutely bizarre. Fast forward many years later, and I've seen how even quite minor operations, like, getting a wart removed or getting a toenail removed, come with these elaborate preparations and sort of pain techniques and so on. When it's a man getting the operation, it seems to be just something inherent about perceptions of seriousness and understanding of who to believe that seems to govern who gets what in these situations.
Is that because the patient is a man or the healthcare professional is a man?
I think both have influence, but in the examples I've seen, it seems to have more influence when it's the patient, that it's the patient's expression of pain. And the same, there's lots of data about it, especially from the US, on racial lines as well, how black and other non-white people, their pain is underestimated compared even within the same gender.
Yeah, there was the Brendan Gender Health Gap report, of 10,000 women in the UK, where 60% of women said that they believe their health issues are not taken seriously. In your experience, have you ever had to feel like you've almost had to overemphasize your symptoms to be believed?
I think, yes, you have to be very firm and advocate for yourself and be very clear. And I think especially when you're going through multiple appointments with different specialists, different doctors, different people, and you have to retell the same story over and over again, you can get quite used to it. It can start to feel quite just standard to you. And yes, I definitely have to think about it hard and say, well, this person's hearing it for the first time. I need to make it feel fresh and important and vital to them so that they will understand what I'm trying to say and take some action.
But in your book, which I think is very interesting, you talk about you had genuine health concerns and obviously had that cancer diagnosis, but that existed alongside you having what you call hypochondria. But actually, I think it's an interesting mix between some people thinking your symptoms that you're explaining are completely unwarranted, when actually you had a genuine health anxiety because of what you'd been through previously.